Chapter 2051. Bai Ling breaking through 5. Although they didn't know what a monarch god-level expert represented, they could make out from Qin Yuan's expression that a monarch god-level expert was stronger than him. Yun Yi, you, old man Yun stroked his chest and eased his breathing. He even used a gentle tone to ask, when did you break through to monarch god level? He suddenly reacted after asking the question. Yun Yi was only a puppet, so how could he possibly speak? Yet, the scene that happened shortly shocked old man Yun. I'm not sure of the specifics, I only know I broke through after consuming a few heavenly bolts of lightning. Yun Yi scratched his head and his previous grave and stern appearance changed. However, lightning tastes good and I hope to have a few more. Old man Yun's mouth twitched and sounds of sucking in cold breath could be heard. As a puppet, Yun Yi actually had his own thoughts. What did this mean? It meant that Luo Feng was already capable of creating a human. However, breaking through after eating a few heavenly lightning bolts, and even hopes to have another taste. What did he mean? Does he think that heavenly lightning was controlled by his family? Retreat. Qin Yuan gnashed his teeth and ordered. Just as he wanted to turn and retreat, an explosion suddenly sounded from not far away. Shortly after, heavenly tribulation lightning appeared. Seeing that, Yun Yi's eyes immediately brightened. He released a low roar and hastily flew towards the lightning. His expression was as if he saw a delicacy and couldn't resist the temptation. In fact, the bolts of lightning were a delicacy for Yun Yi as it could provide nourishment for his body. Of course, right now Yun Yi's strength was at the monarch god level and next would be the true god level. Nonetheless, the true god level wasn't that easy to reach, and no matter how many heavenly lightning he consumed, he wouldn't advance to a true god. However, other than making a breakthrough, the lightning could temper his body, causing it to become more robust, and this was a benefit that was hard to come by. Qin Yuan's legs went soft as his body trembled. Monarch god level. It's another monarch god level expert. Oh god, what kind of monsters does Luo Feng have by her side? Even their Qin family with numerous years of history only had a single monarch god expert. Qin Yuan no longer cared for the others. Taking advantage of the fact that everyone's sight was on the heavenly lightning, he turned around with intentions of escaping. Spotting that Qin Yuan was about to escape, Qi Su immediately shouted, "Block his path." Instantly, all the reverent god-level experts moved and shot towards Qin Yuan. However, just as they were about to reach him, Qin Yuan disappeared into thin air. That's right, he had disappeared and no one knew how he achieved that. Tisk, we allowed that bastard to escape. Qi Ling was somewhat vexed. If they could capture him, perhaps they would have a hope to enter the spirit god continent. Qi Su pursed his lips without speaking as his eyes were filled with fury and his handsome face became grave and stern. Lin Ruobai blinked her eyes. Can I ask, what is a monarch god? She overheard from the Qin family men that Yun Yi was a monarch god. And now, her master's mother had broken through to a monarch god. Yet, she wasn't aware of the concept of a monarch god. Qi Su glanced at Lin Ruobai and patiently explained. Above god level would be heavenly god level, followed by reverent god level. That guy's strength is at the reverent god level. As for the monarch god level, it's beneath a true god and above reverent god. Chapter 2052. Bai Ling breaking through 6. Qi Ling continued, in this word, a true god has yet to appear, and so monarch gods are the most powerful existences. See. Everyone sucked in cold air. So it turns out, Yun Yi had become so powerful. Even Bai Ling had broken through to a monarch god. Ms. Yun has yet to tell you about this. Qi Su was somewhat shocked. Yun Yi, little bug has all reached monarch god. Although young master Yun Xiao is also a monarch god, frankly speaking, even Yun Yi and little bug together wouldn't necessarily be his opponent. It could be said that young master Yun Xiao is an unequaled existence. Oh, there's also Miss Yun. Even though she's only a reverent god right now, her strength is comparable with a monarch god. Previously she had already defeated a monarch god expert. Even though Lang Xinyue fell into Yun Xiao's trap, everyone back then could see that Lang Xinyue wasn't Luo Feng's opponent. Therefore, it wasn't wrong to say that she was comparable to a monarch god. Old man Yun's felt somewhat giddy. Earlier on, he intended to sacrifice himself for Luo Feng to escape, but who knew that his granddaughter's strength could rival against the strongest in the continent. The pleasant surprise came too fast, and some hadn't managed to react. Just as everyone was caught up in astonishment, young Luo Feng and Yun Xiao walked over, while Bai Ling stood by her side. The smiling intent in her eyes had instantly disappeared upon witnessing the scene before her. Young Luo Feng saw the blood on old man Yun in a glance and her face darkened. What happened? Grandfather, why are you injured? After asking, she turned her sight towards those experts of Qin family. Xuanhuan had indeed escaped, but everyone else was left behind. Thus, it was expected that they shouldered young Luo Feng's fury. Did you injure my family? A sinister and eerie smile hung on her lips as killing intent gradually surged forth. The Qin family troops could only smile bitterly. They were led here by Xuanhuan, but he escaped and left them behind. This time, not only would their skeletons be destroyed, probably even their deaths wouldn't be painless. Young Luo Feng ordered, hack them to death and hang their corpses outside the East Province gates after their death. Have them face the East Governor Estate and repent forever for Hong Luan's death. Not only did they harm old man Yun and others, but more importantly, they caused the death of Hong Luan. From the start, she had sworn to offer their souls to Hong Luan. All their expressions changed. It was fine if they died, but they had to be humiliated by her even after death. This was something no one was willing to endure. Looking at their flustered faces, the sneer on young Luo Feng's face deepened. Since you dared to kill my friend and invade the Yun family, then you must pay for it. At this very moment, Yun Yi had walked to their front. Facing a monarch god like Yun Yi, they were completely incapable of resisting. Since young Luo Feng returned, the various factions in the continent had dispatched their spies to the saintly virgin tribe, wanting to know of their every move. Therefore, the news of the Qin family dispatching experts to slaughter into the saintly virgin tribe couldn't be concealed from the various factions. After hearing this news, there was only one reaction in their hearts. Young Luo Feng would die without a doubt. Chapter 2053. Various Factions Shock 1. Yet very soon, another piece of news arrived. Reportedly, those Qin family's experts that intruded into the saintly virgin tribe had perished there. Young Luo Feng had even tied their corpses outside of the East Province city gates for everyone's viewing. This news had scared everyone as they never expected this kind of ending. Among them, the South Province's governor was the most frightened. Previously, when the East Province came asking for help, they had kicked them out. The meaning behind their actions was to inform those Qin family experts that they were unrelated to them. In his opinion, young Luo Feng couldn't win against the Qin family. However, what's with the current situation? All the Qin family experts are dead. And there are even more powerful experts under young Luo Feng. Governor. The elder who came up with the idea was also frightened by this news as he spoke timidly. What should we do now? What else can we do? If it weren't for your idea, I wouldn't have offended that woman young Luo Feng. The South Governor's expression was very unsightly. Suddenly, he clenched his teeth and said, immediately retrieve our heirloom and send men to the saintly virgin tribe to apologize. Yes, Governor. Right now, this was only the viable method to ease both sides' relations. Other than the South Province's governor, other factions had also thought of this method as they sent their men to the saintly virgin tribe at once. However, when they arrived there, young Luo Feng and company had returned to the Jun family. Therefore, they had made this trip in vain. Even so, they weren't discouraged as they rushed to the Jun family after that. At this moment outside the Jun family, it was a hubbub as everyone was sticking out their head to look around. Yet, none of them dared to forcefully enter the Jun family. The Jun family's guards were similar to door gods, as they blocked before everyone like an unmovable mountain, with grim and stern expressions. Miss Yun passed on an order. Regardless who requests a meeting, everyone is rejected without exception. Facing the unreasonable Jun family's guards, no one dared to resist. We brought priceless gifts to request for a meeting with Miss Yun, to apologize for our previous mistakes. Could you be flexible and let us in? Apologize. The Jun family's guard sneered. When the Jun family required help, where did they disappear to? Now that young Luo Feng returned and even massacred the Qin family's experts as an example, these people have all suddenly reappeared. Wanting to get benefits by not facing dangers. Would there be something so good in this world? With Miss Yun's identity, would she care for your gifts? Hurry up and get lost. Everyone's expression stiffened. Indeed, she might not look upon their meeting gifts with her status, but they were the most priceless treasures they could take out. Everyone, a man slowly went up and cupped his fists. I'm from the South Province and the governor tasked me to offer our heirloom. Furthermore, the South Province is willing to obey Miss Yun in the future. The South Province's governor was finally smart for once. To get rid of Yun Luo Feng's ill feelings towards them, perhaps this was the only feasible method. And that was, to be her slave forever. Unfortunately, he attached too much importance to himself. Yun Luo Feng has monarch gods as her subordinates, so how could she possibly care about a small South province? As expected, after hearing his words, that guard sneered, "What do you think you are? In the past, didn't you run the fastest? When the East Province asked for help, weren't they beaten and chased out by you? Now you want to become Miss Yun's slave? In your dreams." Chapter 2054. Various Factions Shock 2. The man's expression was ashen as he had never been humiliated this way. In particular, the other side was a bodyguard. However, that guard was a Jun family subordinate and also under the wings of Yun Luo Feng. No matter how discontented he was, he could only bear with it. "Can't you?" Whoosh. Before this man finished speaking, a stern and grave figure came out. Yun Yi's sturdy muscles radiated a dazzling light under the sunlight and his body stood perfectly straight outside the door. His pair of unfeeling eyes then coldly swept across everyone present. "Anyone who dares to stop here will be killed without exception." Following the words, "killed without exception," Yun Yi's aura spread out while revealing killing intent. Just a glance at his eyes would cause them to be frightened witless as if their heart had been clutched tight and were incapable of breathing. "Get lost." After he spoke, the crowd didn't dare to linger. They scattered like birds and disappeared, seemingly afraid that they would be killed by this terrifying man if they were a second late. Yun Yi turned towards the guard and expressionlessly ordered, "My master is resting and no one is allowed to disturb her. If anyone dares to come and bother my master, kill without exception." The Jun family's guards knew of Yun Yi's strength and naturally wouldn't disobey his orders. More importantly, he was already unhappy looking at those opportunists. If it weren't because of the Jun family's rule of not allowing them to casually injure others, he would have beaten them up earlier on. However, it was different now with Yun Yi's orders. Thinking of this, the guard's eyes brightened. Jun family. Above the rock mountain, Yun Luo Feng was lazily leaning in Yun Xiao's embrace as she gazed at the sun. "Yun Xiao, I've always been fighting all these years and tranquil times like this are few and far between." Her hand gently stroked her slightly bulging belly as she revealed a smile. Such tranquil times were too few and perhaps only after she settled all her enemies could she completely relax. "I'm here to accompany you. No matter it's to fight or to live in seclusion, I'll accompany you without separating." Yun Luo Feng quirked her brow as she faintly smiled and said, "There's also our child." Yun Xiao frowned. "It's fine with me by your side." He did not wish to have his son disrupt their time together after he was born. "What about him? We can conceive another daughter to accompany him in the future. Or he can find his own wife. In any case, it's fine if he doesn't bother my Fenger." Yun Luo Feng's brows twitched. If her unborn child knew of this, he would definitely make a big fuss. Before he was even born, he had been disliked by his father. Of course, Yun Xiao didn't dislike this child. Instead, in the future when their child grows up, he'll certainly have his own life. At that time, he only wished to be alone with his wife and didn't want their children to pester Fenger every day. "Master." Just then, Hua Huo's excited voice sounded within her soul. "Master, Master, the dragon saliva tree bore fruit." The dragon saliva tree was a congratulatory gift Chen Yuqing had given them in the past. This tree was very unique and required a dragon's urine to grow. With little bug's constant efforts, the tree had finally borne fruit. Chapter 2055. Various Factions Shock 3. Thinking of this, a pleasant surprise surfaced on her face. Noticing her happy expression, he asked, "What's going on?" "The dragon saliva tree has finally borne fruit. Yun Xiao, let's make a trip to the God Code world." Within the God Code world, there were only Hua Huo and Little Bug watching by one side, other than Hong Luan's corpse. Cha-Cha couldn't stay still and had gone outside with Little Tree to play about. The hamster tribe was also not in the God Code world. As for Xiaomo, he went on a date with Lin Ruobian through the task of watching the dragon saliva tree to Hua while he happily enjoyed himself. The instant young Luo Feng entered the space, she noticed a huge towering tree. Above the tree, the vermilion-colored fruits appeared plump, tender, and appetizing. Master. Bai Xiao appeared behind young Luo Feng and her eyes were filled with hope while looking at the dragon saliva tree. Can you give me a single fruit to consume? If I consume this fruit, perhaps I might have the ability to appear in a human form, similar to Little Tree. Young Luo Feng glanced at Bai Xiao and nodded. She then plucked a fruit and threw to Bai Xiao. Consume this fruit, then tell me the effects. Bai Xiao looked joyous as disbelief flooded her eyes. She merely casually requested for it and never expected young Luo Feng would really give her one. This was a treasured item everyone fought over in the past 1,000 over years. Bai Xiao hastily consumed the fruit and immediately after, an advancement storm appeared on her. As the life tree, her only use was to grow life fruit for others to consume. Furthermore, her strength was unrivaled inside the life tree. However, this didn't account for much. In the outside world, Bai Xiao wasn't powerful or capable of high damage. She would be considered as the weakest one under young Luo Feng. Yet, after consuming the dragon saliva fruit, her strength rose in flying speed and only stopped after reaching reverent god level. Young Luo Feng was stunned. A single dragon fruit had such properties. To allow Bai Xiao to instantly break through to reverent god. Master, I think I have a general idea about this dragon saliva fruit's uses. Bai Xiao's eyes were filled with joy and only stabilized after a long time. Looking at young Luo Feng, she said, the fruit's uses is to unleash a human's potential without limit. However, the aftermath would be the inability to cultivate throughout their life. That was to say, after consuming the fruit, Bai Xiao wouldn't have any additional breakthrough for the rest of her life after becoming a reverent god. Even so, the effects of this dragon fruit tree were very powerful. It could unleash one's potential to the fullest, and that meant that Bai Xiao could only break through to reverent god level in her whole life. Even without consuming the dragon saliva fruit, she could only advance to reverent god. Therefore, the fruit did not pose many detrimental effects and only beneficial effects. Oh, that's right. Seemingly thinking of something, she said, there's a limit for this fruit. Regardless of your potential, you can only advance to monarch god level at most. It's impossible to break through to true god with the fruit. Originally, young Luo Feng intended for Yun Xiao to consume the fruit. With Yun Xiao's talents, advancing to true god was something that was bound to happen. However, Bai Xiao's words were similar to a bucket of cold water being poured on her, causing her to calm down. Hua, think it through whether you want to consume this fruit. Chapter 2056. Various Factions Shock 4. I'll take it. Hua did not hesitate. True god isn't that easily attainable, and I don't wish to become some true god. I'm willing to consume this fruit. Alright, young Luo Feng passed the fruit to Hua. Then you can eat it right now. Hua nodded without hesitation and ate the fruit. Her potential could be considered as impressive, and with the help of the dragon saliva fruit, both she and Bai Xiao broke through to reverent god level. Yun Xiao, help me harvest all the fruit on the tree. Right now, I'll help the Yun family and the Jun family raise their strength. Unfortunately, Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen weren't here. Otherwise, perhaps they could break through to monarch god with their talents. Upon leaving the God Code world, young Luo Feng sent Hua to inform everyone to await her in the hall. After giving orders, she and Yun Xiao slowly walked towards the hall. Currently, the hall was bustling with activity. Zheng Lingtian and Old Man Yun were in a conversation with lamenting expressions on their faces. Spotting the handsome man and beautiful woman walking over, the entire hall suddenly quietened down. Fenger, Xiaoer, you're here. Zheng Lingtian revealed a smile as his eyes radiated gentleness. Wanting to meet us so urgently, is there something you want to discuss? Young Luo Feng shrugged her shoulders and looked at young Luo while smiling. Grandfather, a seedling that I've recently cultivated has borne fruit. I intended to let you have a taste of it. My own granddaughter cultivated a seedling. Old Man Yun's eyes immediately brightened. To him, anything that his granddaughter brought out had never been lacking. Therefore, when Yun Luo Feng extended her hands, old man Yun had basically pounced over like a hungry wolf. Without asking about the fruit's effect, he immediately bit into the fruit. The fruit was very fragrant as the juice flowed into his mouth. Old man Yun smacked his lips before swallowing the fruit without hesitation. He had a contented expression. This fruit tastes good. Do you have any more? Give me a few more. Unexpectedly, an advancement storm emerged prominently with a bang, causing everyone to be shocked. This storm continued and didn't stop even after advancing to Sage Lord level, advance rank. As a result, he directly broke through to God level. That's right, old man Yun advanced to God level. This knowledge caused him to be shocked silly. He couldn't make head or tails of the situation as he stared foolishly at Yun Luo Feng. Others also couldn't stay seated as they all stood up. Zhang Lingtian couldn't even form coherent sentences due to the excitement. This, God level, old man Yun broke through to God level. That's right, it's God level. God level, what exactly happened? Old man Yun's innate talent wasn't powerful nor weak. Although his strength was weak in the past, that was because he grew up in a backward place like the Long Xia continent. Coupled with his age, he had lacked the determination to continue training. If his birthplace was in the Fengyun continent, then the highest level he could reach was God level. It was precisely due to the backward Longxiao continent that prevented his innate potential from being revealed. This is a dragon saliva fruit and its effects can allow unleashing of your potential without limit. It'll depend on your innate potential to be able to break through to which level. Yun Luo Feng smiled. However, the consequence will be the inability to break through further for the rest of your life. Therefore, it'll be your decision to consume the fruit or not. Chapter 2057. Various Factions Shock 5. Everyone was stunned when they heard her. What Yun Luo Feng meant was, they also had a chance to obtain this dragon saliva fruit. Compared to other people's excitement, Yun Qingye revealed a frown. Perhaps due to the unforeseen events in recent days, it made him even more determined. Feng, or would our fighting strength be weakened if we use the fruit to break through? As if afraid of Yun Luo Feng not understanding his meaning, he continued to explain. For example, as grandfather used the fruit to break through to God level, would it result in him becoming the weakest of the same rank due to using external influence to advance? If so, he would rather not consume the fruit. However, Yun Luo Feng's following words had dispelled his doubts. Second uncle, you can rest assured that there's not much difference in your strength by using the fruit and to break through normally via battles. The only shortcoming would be, you wouldn't advance no matter how you train in the future as your potential had been completely unleashed. Her words caused Yun Qingye to relax as a faint smile quirked on his handsome face. I wish to consume the fruit. Actually, Yun Luo Feng could more or less guess everyone's choice. Right now was the time they needed strength. Only with sufficient strength could they prevent another tragedy from occurring. Yun Qingye's innate potential was very strong, but so what? He was willing to work hard, but the spiritual energy in the seven-province continent prevented him from breaking through to God level. Facing a huge faction like the Qin family, they were powerless to resist. However, with the dragon saliva fruit, it was different. Even if Yun Luo Feng weren't by their side, they could still safeguard their family. As such, after Yun Qingye made his choice, the others also made theirs. Cousin, Yun Ruoshui's crystal clear eyes were filled with hope. I also wish to consume this fruit. Would it be possible? Just as Yun Luo Feng wanted to agree to Yun Ruoshui's request, Bai Xiao's voice sounded in her mind. Master, Yun Ruoshui is too young and cannot bear the fruit's energy. She can only consume it after she's of age. Hearing Bai Xiao's explanation, Yun Luo Feng's eyes became gentler as she gently stroked Yun Ruoshui's head. Shui'er, the power of this fruit is too much for you to bear and you're still too young. However, I'll reserve one for you to consume after you're of age. Yun Ruoshui was disappointed, but after hearing Yun Luo Feng's last sentence, her eyes brightened. All right, Shui'er is very obedient. Shui'er shall consume the fruit after she's an adult. After consoling Yun Ruoshui, Yun Luo Feng handed out the fruit to everyone one by one, except for Bai Ling. She was already a monarch god and the fruit was useless to her. Even if she had the innate potential to advance to true god, the fruit couldn't help her break through. Mu Dong was somewhat surprised. Looking at the dragon saliva fruit placed before him, he blinked his eyes. There's also my share. Your grandfather Jun's friend, and you've also chosen to stand on our side during a crucial moment. I will never treat my people unfairly. A smile blossomed on her face while she spoke with force. Instantly, it caused Mu Dong's heart to tremble. In reality, he wasn't of any help that day in the saintly virgin tribe. At the very most, he was merely prepared to fight against the Qin family. However, if he acted as such after knowing of young Luo Feng's strength, perhaps his actions would seem to be currying favor with her. Chapter 2058. Various factions shocked 6. Even so, they weren't aware of anything before then, were they? In such a situation where they did not know young Luo Feng's strength, they came without hesitation to fight against a powerful faction like the Qin family. Even if they couldn't be of any help, young Luo Feng had remembered their friendship in her heart. Mu Dong then accepted the fruit and remembered her favor in his heart. As such, there were constant heavenly tribulation lightning striking down above the Jun family's residence at that moment. The flashes of lightning had continued for 3 days and nights before they disappeared. As those visitors who came to look for young Luo Feng had yet to return, they naturally witnessed that majestic affair. At once, they decided to return and report to their lord. From now on, they couldn't afford to offend any single person by young Luo Feng's side. Thinking of this, they quickly departed, and following their departure, everything that had happened in the Jun family had spread throughout the entire continent. Due to this, the entire 7-province continent was in a state of shock. Heavenly lightning. What kind of existence was heavenly lightning? Only a god-level breakthrough will cause heavenly lightning, wasn't it so? However, the lightning that struck within the Jun family wasn't just a single bolt. Instead, it was countless bolts of lightning. Upon knowing this, how could they not be astonished? Of course, every one of the Jun family did not pay attention to those noises. Afraid that the heavenly lightning would descend too quickly and Yun Yi was not able to receive it in time, resulting in unnecessary injuries, young Luo Feng had ordered them to break through one at a time. That resulted in continuous heavenly lightning for 3 days and nights. However, the increase in strength this time was statistically remarkable. The majority of them had advanced to Heavenly God, while Old Man Jun, Mu Dong, Ning Xin, and others had advanced to Reverent God. What caused young Luo Feng shock was that Yun Qingye deserved to be called number 1 back then in the Longyuan kingdom. His innate potential had exceeded everyone, as he had directly advanced to monarch god level. In that case, the 7-province continent had Yun Qingye and Bai Ling's protection, and it was impossible for the previous tragedy to repeat. Grandfather Yun was unhappy, and his face even turned sullen as he felt indignation. Why did all of you break through to god level and even heavenly god level? Even my son advanced to monarch god level, but I'm the only god level. Could it be that his innate potential was so lacking? This won't do. Old man Yun glared at young Luo Feng. Hand me another dragon saliva fruit. Young Luo Feng rolled her eyes. Even if I gave you another fruit, you won't break through anymore. Hearing her words, Grandfather Yun stared at her. Can't I eat it as a snack? He actually said he wanted to eat a priceless treasure such as the dragon saliva fruit as a snack. Probably only he could say something like that in this world. If you're not afraid of causing damage to your body, I won't stop you. Young Luo Feng shrugged her shoulders and gave a fake smile. Old man Yun turned taciturn and glared at young Luo Feng with grief. I'm only joking with you. You didn't think I was being honest, right? Compared to the dragon saliva fruit, when are you going to bear a child for me to play with? Bear a child, for him to play with? Young Luo Feng's mouth twitched and only stabilized her emotions after a long time. Didn't my mother tell you that I'm pregnant? Grandfather Yun, who was originally complaining, had turned flabbergasted upon hearing what she said. What? Did I hear that wrong? My precious granddaughter is pregnant. Jun Lingtian and others also hastily stood up, and even their breathing became urgent, while their internal excitement couldn't be concealed. Chapter 2059. Yun Ruoshui and Wuyan 1. Mother, you haven't told them yet. Young Luo Feng glanced at Bai Ling in shock as she asked. I thought you had informed them already. Bai Ling was also speechless. As it turns out, they haven't revealed the news of Feng's pregnancy. Grandfather Yun revealed a grieved expression. They had hidden such important news from him. Second uncle, I'd have to trouble you to make a trip to the land of no return and bring the Yi family here. Also, fetch Tianya in the forest of no return and everyone back here. If the Qin family couldn't deal with the Yun family, perhaps they might retreat and find trouble for the Yi family instead. Therefore, she had to cover all possibilities and prevent them from targeting her closed ones. All right, Yun Qingye nodded. Furthermore, dispatch men to locate my father and mother, along with Yi Eximo and Yi Qi, and protect them all together. With the current situation, it's very dangerous for them to linger outside. The father and mother she mentioned were Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling, and they were the ones she worried about the most. I understand. I will settle this matter well. Yun Qingye faintly smiled. Now that he possessed the strength to protect his closest ones, even his way of speaking became more confident. Mother, young Luo Feng turned to Bai Ling and continued speaking, I've tasked second uncle to search for the others, and as for protecting the old man and the rest, I'll leave it to you. With your presence, I'll be at ease even when I leave. Bai Ling was momentarily shocked. You're leaving? Facing Bai Ling's reluctance to part, young Luo Feng nodded her head. The Qin family's actions aren't solely due to my actions of killing Qin Luo. There must be other hidden reasons. I'll make a trip to the spirit god continent with Yun Xiao. I cannot let this situation to persist with the enemies hiding in the dark and us out in the open. Without knowing why, she had a premonition that the Qin family's actions were related to those people who had once chased down Zhu Qian. Therefore, she had to make a trip to the spirit god continent. Knowing that there were Yun Xiao and 2 other monarch gods by Yun Luofeng's side protecting her, Bai Ling felt reassured. Leave without any worry. With me here, no one can invade the Jun family. Yun Luofeng did not continue saying much. She then took out 5 dragon saliva fruit and passed them to Bai Ling. These 5 fruits are for old man Yi, Yi Qi, Yi Eximo, and my parents. Mother, hand it to them in my stead at that time. After entrusting everything, Yun Luofeng met gazes with Yun Xiao and walked out of the courtyard. Fenger, when shall we set off? We shall leave tomorrow. Yun Luofeng became taciturn. She had only considered increasing her family members' strength and completely forgotten about the steel and raging flame core. These members had grown and followed alongside her from the start. Such a companionship was something irreplaceable, and so, after she returned to her courtyard, she had called out the core and hamster tribe. Even Cha-Cha and Xiaomo had been called back from outside. Master, did something happen for you to call us back urgently? Milk Tea and the rest had stayed in the illusionary realm, and so, they weren't aware of the recent events. As for Xiaomo, Yun Luofeng had already explained the situation to him via spiritual voice transmittance. Chapter 2060, Yun Ruoshui and Wuyan 2. I have 30 dragon saliva fruit left. Other than my 5 masters in West Province Academy, I have to leave 3 for the East Governor Estate people. Therefore, I have 22 fruits left. Although her 5 masters in the East Province Academy hadn't taught her anything, they had always regarded her as their disciple, and she couldn't possibly forget their grace. As for the East Governor Estate, no matter what those elders thought, at the very least, Hong Luan had lost her life for the Yun family, and just based on that fact, she would protect them no matter what crisis they encountered, let alone giving them those 3 dragon saliva fruit. Xiaomo innocently blinked his naive and innocent huge eyes and asked, Master, how do you intend to distribute these 22 fruits? Xiaomo, you and Xiao Bai, Cha-Cha, and Little Tree shall take 1 fruit each. For the hamster tribe, it'll be the Queen, Milk Tea, and Meng Meng. As for the steel and raging flame core, Qingyan, Yi Ling, Zhang Linger, Ling Fei, the 4 of you shall take 1 each. In this case, I have 11 left. As for these 11, Qingyan shall distribute them to people according to their potential. Those who has performed outstandingly over these past years shall be rewarded with 1 fruit. Everyone wasn't aware of the effects of the fruit, but they knew that anything Yun Luofeng took out was extremely precious. Therefore, all their expressions contained expectation as they looked at her intently. For those who didn't obtain anything, there's no need to be dispirited. There'll be more chances in the future, and when the dragon saliva tree bears fruit the second time, I'll leave the opportunity for you. Once the dragon saliva tree bears fruit once, the second time would come soon. Of course, with the precondition of having little bugs urine to nourish the tree. Yes, I understand, young miss. Qingyan beamed with happiness. Her eyes were curved crescent-shaped and looked extremely adorable. All these years, she still couldn't change her initial way of addressing and had always called young Luo Feng as young miss. However, young Luo Feng had changed her over these 10 years. She was only a servant maid of the general estate and had always been bullied by others. Yet, it was her wholehearted attitude towards young Luo Feng that allowed her to change her life. Recalling the past, Qingyan sighed. The former days were similar to smoke, making her feel as if these 10 years were all a dream and seemed unreal. After obtaining the dragon saliva fruit, head to one side to break through. Yunyi, be prepared and prevent anyone from getting injured. The power of the heavenly lightning was no small matter and many couldn't persist when they were breaking through, resulting in their soul scattering. Therefore, Yunyi's help was crucial during this period to block the lightning in place of them, so that they could successfully advance. Everyone was shocked by young Luo Feng's words. Could it be, consuming this dragon saliva fruit would cause injury? But as they believed in their lord, therefore they swallowed the fruit without hesitation. It was only till that moment that they finally understood young Luo Feng's words. Heavenly lightning appeared once again as thunder sounds rumbled before fiercely striking down. The houses had all turned to dust under the might of the lightning. Luckily Yunyi was present and single-handedly blocked the heavenly lightning. This tall, sturdy and robust body seemed exceptionally bright among the heavenly lightning. Of course, young Luo Feng did not let them break through together. Otherwise, if there were too many bolts of lightning, Yunyi might overlook some. After waiting for the heavenly lightning to cease, those people who broke through were all flabbergasted, perhaps not understanding their current situation. Chapter 2061, Yun Ruoshui and Wuyan 3. It was indisputable that their potential had become extremely powerful under the nourishment of spirit medicine for all these years. As such, everyone had advanced to reverent God. By having such strength in the Fengyun continent, they were considered experts that could dominate the country. Therefore, young Luo Feng passed the remaining 11 fruits to Qingyan. Qingyan, select 11 to consume the fruit. After they've broken through, we'll be leaving. After speaking, young Luo Feng stretched as she revealed a languid and tired expression. Yun Xiao, let's return to rest. Yun Xiao then carried her by her waist and walked into their room. As for the following matters, young Luo Feng had left it to Qingyan as she had complete confidence in her abilities. Cousin. Just as young Luo Feng entered the room, Xiao Ruoshui's petite head peeped out from the door and her pair of eyes shone. Looking at young Luo Feng turning, a resplendent smile surfaced on her puerile face. Shui'er, what's the matter? Looking at Xiao Ruoshui's puerile face, her tone was gentle. Cousin, it's brother Wuyan that wanted to meet you and so, I brought him here. Wuyan, a trace of confusion reflected in her eyes, seemingly not knowing who Xiao Ruoshui referred to. Cousin, did you forget? In the land of no return when Sister Yi Jun and I went looking for you in the physician tower, we were abducted. The majority of those children who were also abducted had remained in our Yun family. Brother Wuyan requested your help back then to undo the restriction placed on his body. As she heard Xiao Ruoshui's explanation, young Luo Feng had a vague impression of that person. At that time when she saved Xiao Ruoshui, there was a young man among them. Not only did that young man know of her identity, he knew everything about the land of no return. Unfortunately, there was a restriction on his body and so, he couldn't utilize his strength in the slightest. Following that, the young man requested young Luo Feng to undo his restriction. Although she agreed back then, she was still incapable of doing so with her prior strength. As such, she had arranged for Wuyan to stay by Xiao Ruoshui's side. Ask him to come in. Young Luo Feng silently nodded and said. Xiao Ruoshui's smile was extremely resplendent. Turning her head, she spoke towards the young man. Brother Wuyan, my cousin asks you to enter. Rest assured, my cousin is very nice and there's no need to fear her. When she heard Xiao Ruoshui's words, young Luo Feng couldn't help but twitch her brows. In other people's point of view, exactly what image did she have? Why did Shui'er think that the young man was afraid of her? A moment later, a young man in blue robes entered the room. Compared to a few years back, he had shed his childish appearance and appeared more mature in general. Miss Yun, do you remember what you promised me back then? Wuyan's eyes radiated a bright glint as it contained expectation. Yet, it also contained fear that young Luo Feng would renege on her words. I remember. Young Luo Feng looked towards Wu Yan. You've said that you'll be my slave and as repayment, I'll remove the restriction for you. However, I had lacked the strength back then and for convenience, I temporarily arranged you to stay by Ruoshui's side. Right now, I wish for you to follow by my side and obey my commands. Are you willing? Chapter 2062, Yun Ruoshui and Wu Yan 4. Wu Yan immediately knelt down with a respectful look. Wu Yan shall use my life to protect the eldest young miss in the future. With Yun Luo Feng's words, even his address had changed as joy could be seen across his face. Before undoing the restriction, I have something else to ask. Where are you from, and why did you appear in the land of no return? Wu Yan stood up and his expression revealed complicated feelings. I came from the spirit god continent. As for why I appeared in the land of no return, I had been prosecuted by someone. As expected, when she first encountered Wu Yan, Yun Luo Feng hadn't met anyone from the spirit god continent and didn't know of the continent's existence. Therefore, she wouldn't have identified Wu Yan's true identity at that time. Earlier, the instant Wu Yan stepped into the room, she keenly noticed that his aura was somewhat similar to Qin Luo and those of the Qin family members. Yun Xiao, it seems like our departure will have to be delayed. Yun Luo Feng quirked her brow and looked at the man by her side. She faintly smiled and said, I need to undo Wu Yan's restriction. Yun Xiao's expression was very gentle as the woman's figure was reflected within his pitch-black eyes. A slight arc curved up his lips. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to charge into the spirit god continent together. Shui'er, go out first. Looking at Yun Ruoshui's reluctance to part, she narrowed her eyes and examined the young man standing by her side. His figure stood upright like a tree trunk and appeared unyielding. Okay, Yun Ruoshui pursed her tender lips and walked out after casting one last glance at Wu Yan. She had even helped Yun Luo Feng close the door on the way. Wu Yan, Yun Luo Feng crossed her arms and looked at the young man's unyielding figure with a fake smile. Answer my question honestly. Between you and Shui'er, what's your relationship? Wu Yan was momentarily distracted, probably not expecting Yun Luo Feng to ask that. He was silent for a while before he answered. Shui'er is still a child and I've always regarded her as a little sister. Although he had answered so, Yun Luo Feng had noticed a trace of struggle that flashed through his eyes. Is that so? She smiled and said, you're not much older than Shui'er too. Do you truly treat her as a sister? Wu Yan lowered his head and did not answer. Frankly speaking, he was also unsure. He only knew that he felt very comfortable hanging out with Yun Ruoshui. I don't care what development you and Shui'er would have in the future, but I hope you remember this. Yun Lu Feng slowly went up and pressed in closer to him. My Yun family's daughter isn't that easy to marry. If you wish to marry her, you must possess the strength to protect her and not let her be harmed in the slightest. Yun Luo Feng's requirement for herself was that she can never stand behind Yun Xiao, but instead, fight side by side with him. However, her hard work was to prevent her family from getting injured. If Shui'er were to be harmed after handing her over to Wu Yan, it would be better to have Shui'er by her side and she shall protect her forever. I will protect Shui'er. Wu Yan's expression became grave and stern as he spoke in all seriousness. I don't care what background you have. No matter where you're from, if you wish to marry our family member, you can never take in concubines. Otherwise, I'll root out any budding feelings Shui'er has for you. Chapter 2063, Yun Ruoshui and Wu Yan 5. Yun Ruoshui was her second uncle's daughter and was also part of her family. Even if she hadn't had contact with Shui'er for so many years, she already regarded her as her little sister, so how could she allow others to harm her? Thinking about his own family, he paused momentarily and answered Yun Luo Feng's question. If Shui'er and I fall in love in the future, I will fight for it. What if you fail? She narrowed her eyes and continued to ask. If I fail, I'll come to the Yun family and be a live-in son-in-law. When he spoke, Wu Yan was very determined. If those people opposed him or forced himself to marry a concubine, then he'd rather abandon everything to accompany her forever. Alright, I hope you can keep your promise. If you go back on your words. The moment she spoke, Yun Xiao coordinated with her and released his aura. Under the powerful suppressive aura, Wu Yan turned pale. His body swayed but he was determined to stand up as his eyes radiated a glint. This is my requirement for you. I'm sure you're also aware that Shui'er is my second uncle and aunt's sole daughter. In the future when you wish to marry her, you'll still have to obtain their permission. However, these are all matters in the future and right now, let me undo the restriction on you first. Okay. Wu Yun's eyes brightened. Indeed, the relationship between him and Shui'er should only be thought about in the future. Even though he had a favorable impression of Shui'er as of now, it was only so. No one would know how the future developed, right? And so, the matter of vital importance now was the restriction placed on his body. The restriction in him was more troublesome than expected, and in all likelihood, the person who placed the restriction was also very powerful. If it was the young Luo Feng of the past, she would be incapable of removing the restriction. But as of now, she had already broken through to monarch god level. To her, this restriction didn't pose a problem, but even so, she had spent an entire day to remove it. Next day, early morning. Stepping out from young Luo Feng's room, he sensed the spiritual energy within the world and his body felt incomparably comfortable, resulting in a brilliant smile to blossom on his face. This time, I'm not sure when I can return after leaving with the eldest miss. Yun Ruoshui's puerile and adorable face surfaced in Wu Yun's mind and a smile perked up his lips. So, I have to bid farewell to her first. It was easy to locate Yun Ruoshui. From afar, Wu Yun spotted Xiao Ruoshui seated at a streamlet while looking bored. Xiao Ruoshui's arm was propped on the ground while her little feet soaked within the ice-cold stream. Fallen leaves flew down and scattered on her jade-like carved face. Shui'er. All of a sudden, a familiar voice sounded from behind her, and caused her to stand up in alarm. She then looked at the young man before her at a loss. The young man frowned. It's still cold out, and what if you get sick? As if she was a child that committed a mistake, Xiao Ruoshui looked repentant. Brother Wu Yun, I'm sorry. I know my mistakes. Perhaps it was due to young Luo Feng who had asked about their relationship. He had an urge to kiss her roughly upon looking at the repentant yet adorable little girl. The young man was shocked by his internal thoughts and hastily turned around in awkwardness, for fear that he would really commit such a beastly act. Chapter 2064, Yun Ruoshui and Wu Yun 6. Shui'er, I came to bid farewell to you. I will set off together with your cousin in a short while. Xiao Ruoshui tightly bit her lips as a layer of mist clouded her bright eyes. Brother Wu Yun, when will you return? I will return as quickly as possible. Wu Yun stretched out his hand to stroke Xiao Ruoshui's head while he revealed gentleness. Wait for me here. Xiao Ruoshui smiled. Her smile was very bright, similar to a sun that brightened one's heart. Brother Wu Yun, you have to come back soon. Shui'er will wait for you at home. Looking at this little girl, Wu Yun felt somewhat reluctant to part. However, he knew that no matter how reluctant he felt, he had to leave. Furthermore, he had to become stronger. Only by becoming sufficiently strong, he could then become her pillar of support. Wu Yun suppressed his internal reluctance and walked away. He did not turn back to look at Yun Ruoshui as he was afraid he wouldn't leave after looking at her. While Wu Yun had bid goodbye to Yun Ruoshui, young Luo Feng also finished bidding farewell to the Yun family. Under their reluctant-to-part gazes, she walked out the Jun family's gates. After she stepped out, she turned back to look at the Jun family, then at her family members that followed behind her. She faintly sighed. She turned to Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, let's make a trip to the East Province first. Sure. After he spoke, he held Yun Luo Feng by her waist and his figure disappeared within the skies with a leap very soon. Within the East Province Governor Estate. Ever since the departure of Hong Luan, the entire estate was shrouded in a layer of sorrow. The inhabitants had also been affected by the atmosphere and became unhappy. Even the streets weren't as bustling as before. At this moment, young Luo Feng stood outside the governor estate. Looking up at the white silk that had yet to be cleared away, traces of guilt flickered in her eyes. If I had returned one day earlier, perhaps Hong Luan wouldn't have died. Ultimately, she had still returned late. Don't blame yourself. Yun Xiao pulled Yun Luo Feng into his embrace. Even if she's dead, it isn't impossible to resurrect her. Instead of blaming yourself, why don't we think of methods to save her? Yun Luo Feng faintly smiled. You're right. Regardless of how difficult the future path will be, I'll never give up. This world cannot be without a Hong Luan. Thinking of this, young Luo Feng took a step forward and walked into the East Governor Estate's courtyard. Upon noticing Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao's appearance, they were momentarily distracted before hastily rushing to report to Hong Ling. Soon after, Hong Ling slowly walked over from the front of the courtyard. Together with him were those elders belonging to the East Province Governor Estate. From the start, these elders had been opposed to Hong Luan saving the Yun family, afraid that it would incur an extermination crisis. Unexpectedly, there were powerful experts under Yun Luofeng that had even wiped out the Qin family's experts. Moreover, there were numerous bolts of lightning above the Jun family that continued for a few days without stopping, resulting in a sensation throughout the entire continent. Thus, it was impossible for them to be unaware of this. Therefore, all the elders felt extremely glad at this very moment. If it weren't for Hong Luan's determination, perhaps they might have offended Yun Luofeng just like the South Province. How could Hong Ling not know about their thoughts? He unconsciously sneered. He hadn't forgotten how these elders strongly opposed when Hong Luan wanted to shelter the Yun family back then. Right now, after witnessing Yun Luofeng's strength, all of them wanted to curry favor instead. So much so that no one within this estate that was heartbroken due to Hong Luan's death other than him. Chapter 2065, Spirit God Continent 1. Not sparing these elders a single glance, he turned to Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, is there something important since you've came here personally? Yun Luofeng nodded, and as she flipped her palm, a vermilion-colored fruit appeared. This is, Hong Ling stared blankly for a moment and asked as he failed to understand her intentions. As she faced his puzzled expression, Yun Luofeng smiled. You should have heard of the bolts of lightning that strike down in the Jun family over the last few days. A trace of astonishment flashed through Hong Ling's eyes as he looked at Yun Luofeng's smiling face in shock. You mean that they broke through to reverent god level with to this fruit? It was impossible for him to be unaware of the events in the Jun family. When he heard what she said, he immediately associated the incident with the item in her hands. Instantly, his heart fiercely shook. All the elders had also stared intently at the dragon saliva fruit. They had drooling expressions and some couldn't help but swallow their saliva, as they wished they could pounce over and snatch the fruit. That's right, they could break through all because of this dragon saliva fruit in my hands. I've left 3 for you and I specially came here to deliver this to you. Hong Ling turned silent. The dragon saliva fruit's effect did cause others to drool over it, but compared to this fruit, he wished for his daughter to come back. Miss Yun, can you tell me, are there any methods to resurrect her? His eyes contained hope and pleading, and even more of a father's love. Yun Luofeng looked into Hong Ling's begging eyes and couldn't help but sigh. There's a method to save her, but I'm not confident. Hong Ling's eyes brightened. No matter if Yun Luofeng was confident or not, her words had given him great hopes. Thank you. Hong Ling's voice became choked with emotions, and when he took a single fruit from her hands, he said, I only need one of the fruits and you can take back the rest. It's better to keep such a precious item for people by your side. Although Yun Luofeng only intended to give the East Province Governor Estate 3 dragon saliva fruit, they could fight for the other 2 quotas after the governor took one. However, the governor actually pushed away such a priceless treasure. Thinking of this, all of them looked at Ying Ling in fury. Hong Ling noticed the resentment in those elders' hearts, but disregarded them and pushed her hand back. Miss Yun, I'm really thankful to you. Even if you only have a gleam of hope, it has given me a reason to continue living. Hong Ling slowly shut his eyes. During this period when Hong Luan passed away, the man that was originally full of metal had aged dozens of years and even his straight back had gradually bent down. For Hong Ling, the East Governor Estate was once a place he had to protect with his whole life. For it, he had lost his beloved woman and he even forced the daughter he loved to marry the North Province's young master. If it weren't for Yun Luofeng's emergence, perhaps he would have committed an unforgivable mistake. However, after Hong Luan left him, he suddenly saw the light. What was the East Province? What were the common people? What was authority? Nothing was more important than his own family. If Hong Luan could return to his side, he was willing to give up the entire East Province in exchange. Chapter 2066, Spirit God Continent 2. Yun Luofeng glanced at the pale middle-aged man and slowly spoke up, there's no need to thank me. Hong Luan died for my family and I ought to do everything I can for her. In the future, if the East Province encounters any dangers, you can seek help from the Jun family. Since Hong Luan died to save my family, then my family will also do their utmost to protect you. Probably Hong Ling was still unaware that due to Hong Luan's sacrifice, the East Province would escape from a calamity in the future with the Yun family's protection. Since Hong Ling did not require the other 2 fruits, young Luo Feng did not force it. She kept the 2 fruits and she bid farewell to Hong Ling before she left together with Yun Xiao. Hong Ling quietly stood by the gates and looked at young Luo Feng's departure. He stood there for a long time before he recovered his senses. Governor, why did you reject the other 2 fruits? An elder spoke in anger. The chance to increase their strength was right before them, yet Hong Ling had rejected it. How could they not harbor a grudge against him? That's right, Governor. You're also aware of the need for our East Governor estate to increase our strength, so why did you reject such a good opportunity? You have to know, that was a fruit that can create a god-level cultivator. With a few more god-level experts appearing in our estate, wouldn't you benefit too? The other elder also showed resentment on his face. If the other party weren't the governor, he would have cursed him to his face. He had seen foolish people before, but not someone foolish to this extent. Hong Ling retracted his gaze and his eyes as sharp as knives swept across those elders as a mocking smile quirked on his lips. Don't forget how you attempted to have Hong Luan chase the Yun family out when they were staying here in the past. If the Yun family truly left, do you think she would have left this opportunity for us? That elder was instantly silenced. After a long time later, he unhappily said, however, didn't the Yun family stay in the end? The eldest young miss even threw her life away for them and we deserved that fruit. Hong Ling's eyes gradually turned cold. Firstly, Hong Luan voluntarily sacrificed herself and did not request for any compensation. I, Hong Ling, am not someone who coerces others with a favor. Secondly, the reason why the Yun family stayed in our place is that Hong Luan had god-level strength, and you were incapable of forcefully chasing them out. If she had the strength of a few years back, would you have allowed the Yun family to stay? All the elders were instantly silenced. What the governor said was a fact. The reason they didn't chase away the Yun family was because of the eldest young miss's strength and they did not dare to oppose her. However, if the eldest miss hadn't advanced to god level due to luck, it would probably have been impossible for the Yun family to stay. Right now, do you have any right to ask for the dragon saliva fruit? Hong Ling held on to the fruit and looked at these greedy humans' expressions before him with a sneer. Upon noticing their gaze on his hand, the chill in his eyes intensified. What, you're thinking of cooperating and snatching away the fruit? You're not afraid of the Jun family's retaliation? After all, this fruit was given to me by Miss Yun. His words implied that, if they snatched away his fruit and the Jun family knew, they would never let them off. As expected, when they heard Hong Ling's words, their mouth twitched and no one dared to snatch the item from Hong Ling's hands. Furthermore, Chapter 2067, Spirit God Continent 3. Hong Ling was their governor and they did not have the guts to be rash. Governor, you're mistaken about us. How could we possibly snatch away your dragon saliva fruit? I said that earlier on was only because I wanted our governor estate to become stronger. It isn't due to my selfishness and I request for you to be understanding. For the governor estate, Hong Ling's heart turned even chillier as his eerie eyes once again swept across those shameless faces before walking into the estate's courtyard. Currently, their intestines turned green from regret. If they hadn't strongly opposed the eldest young miss back then, perhaps the governor would not have been so ruthless. In reality, they had all misunderstood Hong Ling. Having a beef with them wasn't because of their strong opposition, because their intentions could be regarded as thinking for the East Governor estate. However, after Hong Luan's death, they did not grieve for her death but instead, thought about how to curry favor with young Luo Feng. It's fine if you wanted to curry favor with young Luo Feng. The problem was how you treated the Yun family back then. By acting like that right now, aren't you hypocrites? Not chasing them out, the East Governor estate was already treating them fairly, so how could he possibly help them increase their strength? Naturally, young Luo Feng wouldn't know these events in the Governor estate. After she left, she immediately set off to the West Province Academy with Yun Xiao, while Wuyan quietly chased behind their backs. Within the West Province Academy, Shu Kong was currently lecturing a disciple and chancing upon young Luo Feng walking in, his eyes immediately brightened. Cough cough, Shui Ying lightly coughed and spoke to the young man who had been lectured until he couldn't even make a refute. Wu Feng, leave us. Yes, Elder Shui Ying. That young man named Wu Feng relaxed and walked out the elder's office. Although barely audible, he could hear Elder Shu Kong bursting into loud laughter. Fenger, why have you come? Wu Feng's footsteps paused and he looked puzzled. He understood his master's personality, and when had he ever laughed so carefreely? Furthermore, what background did that woman he called Fenger have? Why? Shui Ying cast a look of blame at Shu King. Fenger can't return to visit us. No, I didn't mean it that way. It's just that our precious disciple has unexpectedly returned and I was too surprised, Shu Kong rubbed his nose and weakly explained. Wu Feng, who already left the elder's office, had suddenly stopped when he heard Elder Shu Kong. Fenger. Also the disciple of the various elders. Could it be, she was that matchless genius young Luo Feng that shook the whole world? Wu Feng's heart immediately thumped and he couldn't suppress his internal excitement. Oh God, so that genius was really their academy's disciple and he had even met with her. He really wished to ask for a signature. However, as he thought back to his master's savage personality, Wu Feng ultimately didn't have the courage to step into the office once again. It's Fenger who is more considerate, Shu Kong suddenly sighed. Not like that disciple who I just accepted. At that time, I felt that his talent was pretty good. Although he couldn't be compared to you, who knew that this little brat would be so good at stirring up trouble. Chapter 2068. Spirit God Continent 4. Shui Ying covered her mouth and laughed. When Fenger was here back then, there was no lack of troubles she caused. Instead, I never saw you lecture her. Shu Kong rolled his eyes and revealed a proud expression. Naturally, even if Fenger stirs up trouble, she is still very outstanding. How could I bear to lecture her? Young Luo Feng's lips twitched and glanced at Yun Xiao, who stood by her side. Her eyes seemed to ask, did she really like to stir up trouble? Yun Xiao had always been an honest kid, and upon receiving young Luo Feng's about to murder someone gaze, he still nodded. Yet, he added on another sentence at the end, you can cause as much trouble as you wish, I will be your backup. Even if you pierce a huge hole in the skies, I will be by your side, supporting you behind your back. Yun Xiao wasn't someone who regularly spoke words of love, but whenever he did, it would amaze the world with a single sentence. Even those old fellows present who had lived for nearly 100 years unconsciously used an admiring gaze to look at the man before them. Young Luo Feng also retracted her murderous look with his words. Both of you as a young married couple are still so in love after so many years. Have you ever spared a thought for us unmarried people? A trace of awkwardness surfaced on Shu Kong's face and he dryly coughed. However, Fenger, you're very busy and you wouldn't visit without a cause. Speak, for what matters are you here today? Young Luo Feng quirked her lips. Are you aware of what happened in the Jun family a few days back? What happened? The reason behind those bolts of heavenly lightning. Those bolts of lightning had continued for 3 whole days. After ceasing for a short moment, it started again. And so, it was impossible that these few elders hadn't heard of such a huge incident happening in the Jun family. A vague idea flashed through Shui Ying. Fenger, was it your work for so many of the Jun family members to break through to God level? That's right, young Luo Feng lightly smiled and took out 5 dragon saliva fruit. This is a dragon saliva fruit and you can break through after consuming it. However, your strength will not only be at God level, but above it. As for what level you may reach, it'll depend on your own potential. What, not God level but above God level? The few elders were shocked dumb and every one of them looked at young Luo Feng in astonishment. These 5 fruits are for you and I have another 2 with me. If you see Ji Judian or Hu Li, I'd trouble you to hand it over to them. Seeing these few old fellows still stunned on the spot, she placed the dragon saliva fruit on the table and took out another 2. After all the fruit had been placed on the table, those few fellows finally recovered their senses and immediately pounced towards the table. Sounds of fighting could also be heard from time to time. Shit, what are you fighting for? Everyone has their share and don't snatch my portion too. Shu Kong, you this shitty old man that likes to vie with me. Let me tell you, my potential is better than you and after I break through to a higher level than you, let's see how I lecture you. It's not confirmed who would be more powerful. You better not be too full of yourself. After placing down the dragon saliva fruit, young Luo Feng turned and left. And so, she did not pay any attention to those fighting sounds. After they managed to get their hands on the dragon saliva fruit, they finally noticed young Luo Feng's departure. Probably they never expected that they would receive such a generous reward after fighting to take her in as their disciple. Chapter 2069, Spirit God Continent 5. She's already left, Shui Ying sighed and bitterly smiled. We've owed her too much throughout our lives. Frankly speaking, they hadn't done much for young Luo Feng but only chose to stand by her side during a difficult situation. Yet it was because of their choice that resulted in young Luo Feng using such a method to repay them. Perhaps, taking her in as my disciple is the most correct thing I've done in my life. Outside the West Province Academy, young Luo Feng stopped and turned to the young man that followed behind her. Since you're from the Spirit God Continent, do you know of any methods to enter? Wu Yan nodded. Only people from the Spirit God Continent are aware of the road. Furthermore, it'll require a plaque of the Spirit God Continent to enter and outsiders are not allowed inside. It's fine if you have a method. Then let's set off to the Spirit God Continent right now. Spirit God Continent, Qin family. Among the rear mountains peach tree forest, a woman was seated on a stone while allowing the falling petals to scatter on her shoulders. Her fine black hair flowed behind her back and seemed to fuse together with this forest filled with peach trees. Just then, a flurry of footsteps sounded but she did not even lift her eyes, seemingly not noticing the figure behind her. Fair. The man's voice was filled with endless deep love as it sounded behind her. Is something the matter? Mu Qingfei's voice was tired and she didn't even turn to look at the man. Fair. Guess who I saw when I left the Spirit God Continent? Qin Yuan didn't get angry as he slowly walked in front of her. At this very moment, he lacked the previous fierceness and arrogance when he killed into the saintly virgin tribe. Instead, he appeared like an elegant young master. A trace of a glimmer flashed through Qin Yuan's eyes as he slowly said, I met a little girl named Lin Ruobai. She looks a lot like you and is also the young leader of the saintly virgin tribe. As expected, after hearing his words, there was finally a trace of emotion that appeared on Mu Qingfei's cold and detached face. Standing up with a whoosh, she looked nervous. You met my daughter. Fair, you've been too lonely alone here all these years. Why don't I bring her here? Qin Yuan's voice was very gentle, as long as you can show me a smile, I don't mind if she's a child between you and another man. As long as you only have me in your life, it's enough. After the initial excitement appeared on her face, she recovered very soon. You restricted my freedom and now you're thinking of snatching away my daughters. I will never let you have your way. Fair, why are you being so obstinate? For you, I've resisted so much pressure and haven't married a wife or have concubines. Why are you still unwilling to accept me? Qin Yuan pressed in towards Mu Qingfei and his voice did not contain any anger. Instead, it was full of helplessness. Why don't you tell me what I should do, so that you could accept me? Mu Qingfei gradually shut her eyes. In this life of hers, there was only a single man. So how could she possibly accept another? Fair, do you know what your daughter is experiencing right now? Qin Yuan's face revealed a fleeting sinister look before recovering and used his previous gentle tone to speak. Your daughter is deceived by someone and even willingly became that person's slave. The entire saintly virgin tribe listens to that woman. Therefore, don't you wish to bring your daughter to your side under such a situation? Chapter 2070, Spirit God Continent 6. Mu Qingfei stiffened and her tightly gripped fists lightly trembled. Fair, you have to believe in me. No matter what I do, it's all for your sake. Mu Qingfei suddenly widened her eyes and looked at him with a sharp burning gaze. For my sake? If so, then let me leave. Other than that, I will agree to anything else. Qin Yuan frowned. Think it through and if you're willing, I'll immediately fetch your daughter here and let both of you reunite. Right now, I have to report the situation to my father and I'll find you shortly. Mu Qingfei coldly stared at Qin Yuan's departing figure as hatred overflowed from her eyes. If it weren't for the Qin family, she wouldn't have been separated from her husband and child. It was the Qin family who caused their family to separate and even trapped her here for so many years. Towards the Qin family and the man before her, she only had hatred for them. As long as she was given the chance, she would topple the entire Qin family and not give them a single chance to recover. An old man was seated in the Qin family's hall, and as he saw the man that walked in, his expression gradually sank. "You went to the rear mountain again?" Qin Yuan was startled. "Father, I..." "Humph," the old man expressionlessly snorted. "Just for a woman, you've landed yourself in such a situation. Not only do you head there whenever possible, but you've never even taken any concubines after all these years. How can you face the Qin family's ancestors?" "Father, after meeting Fei, your son doesn't wish to love another woman." Qin Yuan smiled in agony. Thinking back, he was a young and handsome man within the spirit god continent, and many women dreamt to marry him. Unexpectedly, after meeting Mu Qingfei, he was unable to be moved by anyone else. "If you love her, won't it do to forcefully marry her?" The old man's expression gradually became unhappy. "Is she worth it for you to become like this?" "No," Qin Yuan shook his head, "I don't wish to force her, but for her to willingly marry me. Father, I can heed your desire in anything else, but I wish to rely on my own abilities to obtain her." The old man turned red from anger and angrily pointed at him. He wanted to abuse him roundly, but he couldn't think of anything to say at that moment. After a long time, he took a deep breath and said, "Speak, I tasked you to bring that woman back, and so why did you return alone? What about the other Qin family men?" Upon mentioning this matter, Qin Yuan's expression slightly turned cold. There was an obvious humiliated look on his face, seemingly not willing to speak of it. "Other than myself, it was a total wipeout." "What?" The old man stood up in shock as his hands trembled. "Impossible, it's a small god-forsaken place, so how could there be experts that could cause a complete wipeout? Yuaner, recount the whole incident to me without leaving out any detail." Soon after, Qin Yuan narrated the events in the Saintly Virgin tribe one by one. Of course, he concealed the matter of Lin Ruobai. If his father found out about Lin Ruobai, it would be even more impossible for him to agree to him marrying Fei. Hearing Qin Yuan's recount, the old man's legs had somewhat trembled. He sat down on the chair and tightly gripped the handles. "There's the existence of a monarch god in that desolate place. I've truly underestimated that woman." Chapter 2071, Ancestor Dragon, Long Luo 1. Monarch god. Even within the spirit god continent, it was an existence that could be counted on one hand. "Father, what should we do next?" Qin Yuan tightly knitted his brows and asked. The old man recovered his calmness very soon as he ordered, "Immediately send a notice and ask all monarch gods of the spirit god continent to cooperate and deal with young Luo Feng. No matter how strong her subordinates are, they cannot resist against numerous monarch gods." "With what reason?" The spirit god continent was a whole entity, and if an expert was born on that god-forsaken land, the other monarch gods wouldn't remain indifferent. However, the problem was that those experts wouldn't meddle in their business as long as young Luo Feng hadn't killed her way into the spirit god continent. He frowned and deeply pondered. "Tell them that young Luo Feng has found out about the spirit god continent's existence and provoked us. Our Qin family went to discuss with her on good terms after knowing her intentions, but who would expected her to attack us without reason and had killed our family's experts. She even claimed that she wanted to become the dictator of this spirit god continent. Those monarch gods are craven and cowardly, and young Luo Feng is very talented. Coupled with the two monarch gods experts under her, it'll definitely cause a restraining fear in many. As such, we can only root her out while she's still in germination stage." Killing intent circulated within his eyes as a sneer quirked on his lips. He did not believe that he was incapable of dealing with that woman. "Father, should I send a letter to the Ancestor Dragon tribe?" The Ancestor Dragon tribe possessed an extremely powerful strength within this spirit god continent. However, some unforeseen events happened in the tribe and resulted in them going into seclusion. Therefore, it had been many years since they had appeared on the continent. "Yes." The old man was silent for a moment and said, "Tell the Ancestor Dragon tribe that I know some news about their eldest young miss and they'll immediately come to assist." Qin Yuan looked at his father in surprise but knew not to ask any questions. He merely answered and retreated. Just as Qin family was busy dealing with young Luo Feng, she had already come uninvited and stood on the lands of the spirit god continent. The spiritual energy here is very dense, much thicker compared to the Fengyun continent. No wonder it's impossible for any monarch gods to appear in the Fengyun continent, yet it is possible here. Just as young Luo Feng spoke, Little Bug, who had been staying in the God Code world, became restless. Without any alternative option, young Luo Feng released him. Instantly, Little Bug was enveloped in a layer of light, and after the light dispersed, an extremely pretty cute boy appeared by her side. Little Bug, you can transform into a human shape. Young Luo Feng was surprised. After knowing Little Bug for so long, it was her first time seeing his human appearance. Little Bug rolled his eyes. As his appearance was cute and adorable, and even his actions of rolling his eyes seemed very adorable. I was only too lazy to appear in my human form. Also, since this spirit god continent is my homeland, can you change the way you call me? If my tribesmen were to hear that, how am I to face them? Seemingly not hearing what Little Bug said, she turned towards Yun Xiao. Where shall we go next? Just as Yun Xiao wanted to reply, he suddenly sensed a strong killing intent, and it caused his expression to become vigilant. He instantly pulled young Luo Feng into his embrace and said, "Be careful." Chapter 2072, Ancestor Dragon, Long Luo 2. Just as he said that, a dragon's wail could be heard. That voice sounded as if it was in excruciating pain, and it carried sadness and suffering. For some reason, that shout caused Little Bug to tremble and tightly grab on young Luo Feng's sleeve. "Master, save her. Please, save her." Among the azure blue skies, a few experts encircled a huge crystalline dragon. The pitchforks in their hands were fiercely thrust into it again. Fresh blood seeped out from the thick dragon's scales, similar to bean-sized rain droplets as it flowed out. Roar! The huge dragon bellowed in grief and indignation. Heaven and earth trembled, and the skies seemed to be responding to her pain. Thunder suddenly sounded from the originally clear blue sky, and lightning tore across the sky with a bang. It could actually escape even after being seriously injured. Right now, we have to quickly capture it. If the ancient dragon clan comes to know about this, we will certainly be punished. Tisk, this dragon's skin is so thick. To think it isn't dead even after such serious injuries. Furthermore, even after being continuously forced to spit out dozens drops of essence blood for 3 months, it could find an opportunity to escape. The essence blood of dragons was extremely precious, and it required several months of recuperation to recover one single drop. However, this group of people had forced this dragon to continuously spit out dozens of drops of essence blood for several months, which simply equated to exhausting its life. More importantly, when a dragon spat out essence blood, it would feel as if their bone marrow was pulled out, and that sort of pain was hard to imagine. The crystal dragon's huge body twisted, and its thick tail swept across the group of humans. Its strength was very powerful, and with just a sweep they had retreated a few steps. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the huge dragon turned with intentions of escaping. However, that group of humans quickly recovered their senses and caught up. They then used the pitchforks in their hands to fiercely thrust into its tail. Roar! The severe pain caused it to tremble, and fresh blood had long dyed the skies red. It could no longer continue to fly, and suddenly fell from the sky, crashing into the mountain forests with a bang, and caused the entire place to be flattened. A bean-sized tear flowed down from its eyes and transformed into a pearl as it fell down. Its eyes contained despair and unwillingness. It could no longer move due to the excessive exertion. Finally, I'm going to die. So it turns out, death had become an extravagant hope for it. The huge dragon slightly shut its eyes, and just as its eyes were about to shut, a snow-white figure appeared before it, similar to an immortal, with white robes fluttering in the air. Her expression was so gentle, and even her voice was moving. Yun Xiao, settle this group of people. I'll treat its injuries first. These were the last words the huge dragon heard before it lost consciousness. At this instant, it believed that its perseverance wasn't futile. As long as one's heart was kind, they would ultimately have that kindness reciprocated. The lightning and thunder flashes disappeared together as it lost consciousness, and the sky gradually turned to dusk. After the huge dragon regained consciousness, a cute young boy stretched his head before her as he said happily, "My kind, you've woke up." My kind. The huge dragon was bewildered. Was he talking to her? Oh right. All of a sudden, the huge dragon seemed to recall something as its head quivered while hastily using its eyes to survey its surroundings. After spotting the white-robed lady quietly sitting on the tree having a rest, it relaxed. Chapter 2073. Ancestor Dragon, Long Luo 3. Thank you. The dragon's voice was not as rough as its body looked. Instead, it was exceptionally melodious and touched one's soul, similar to a black-naped oriole. Master, Mistress, this dragon has woke up, Little Bug excitedly called out. Very soon, young Luo Feng and Yun Xiao walked to the huge dragon's side. The huge dragon looked at young Luo Feng without looking away, and its fixed gaze caused Yun Xiao to frown. Why are those people chasing you? Young Luo Feng glanced at the huge dragon and asked with a lazy tone. The dragon's expression darkened. Those people are from the Cheng family. Previously, when the eldest young miss of the Cheng family encountered danger outside, I saved her and she invited me to the Cheng family as thanks. She also treated me to a very delicious soup. After drinking it, I lost consciousness, and when I woke up I realized I was locked in a cage. Every single day they forced me to spit out my essence blood. When I was unwilling, they would pierce me with their swords and burn me with a branding iron. Not only that, they even pulled out my scales. I took advantage and escaped when their vigilance was weak. If I hadn't met you, I'm afraid I would have come to a terrible end. The dragon was riddled with scars and a few parts of its body were missing scales, resulting in some flesh that was drenched with blood to be exposed. Looking at the new and old injuries together, it seemed exceptionally miserable. You said it was the Cheng family who did this. Wu Yun's eyes turned cold and even his breathing became hurried. His emotional fluctuation was very huge, causing young Luo Feng to glance at him. However, she did not ask anything. Everyone had their secrets, and since Wu Yun was unwilling to speak of it, she wouldn't pry. Even so, she could make out that this Cheng family was closely related to Wu Yun. Perhaps, he might belong to this family and the person who harmed him was also there. These people are too much. Little Bug turned red from anger as he fiercely said, in my opinion, those from the Cheng family aren't fit to be humans. They're even worse than us spirit beasts. At the very least, spirit beasts wouldn't commit such acts like biting the hand that saved them. The huge dragon blinked her eyes. My name is Long Luo, what's yours? This is my master Yun Xiao, and the person who saved you is my mistress, Yun Luo Feng. Although my master is a man, my mistress calls the shot in this family. In the future, you should just curry favor with my mistress. As for my name, Little Bug lightly coughed. What name should he call himself to attract this female dragon's attention? In any case, Little Bug definitely won't do. However, before Little Bug managed to think of a domineering name, young Luo Feng spoke. You can just call him Little Bug. In that instant, Little Bug's expression was extremely black as his gaze towards young Luo Feng was filled with resentment. He wanted to woo this female dragon, but why did his mistress stab him in the back? Could it be, he had to be single throughout his whole life? Long Luo giggled but accidentally tore open her wounds and sucked in a breath of cold air due to the pain. Recuperate here first, and after you've recovered, I'll send you away. Young Luo Feng shot a glance at Long Luo and said. Long Luo was stunned and slightly lowered her head. Using an extremely weak voice, it said, I don't wish to return. I want to travel together with you. Chapter 2074. Frame Up 1. Young Luo Feng was silent. Looking at her expression, Ling Luo assumed that young Luo Feng was unwilling to let her stay. She instantly became nervous and spoke in a careful tone, I am knowledgeable and I can also be your bodyguard. Could you please allow me to stay? Perhaps Long Luo's voice finally caused young Luo Feng to respond. She quirked her brow and looked at the huge dragon before her. It's not convenient for you to follow me like this. We came here to settle some affairs, and if you follow by my side in such a figure, I'm afraid it'll attract too much attention. Long Luo's eyes brightened, and seemed to contain a layer of mist. After my injuries have recovered, I can transform into a human form. As for now, I can camouflage myself. The dragon tribe had an innate ability to transform their sizes, just like Little Bug, who often used a bug's appearance to show up. Long Luo was naturally capable of doing so too. Alright, young Luo Feng unperturbedly said. If you can conceal yourself, I'll let you follow me. Long Luo brightened up, and soon after, a layer of light shrouded her and she gradually shrunk while everyone was watching. In the blink of an eye, that previous huge dragon had turned into a sparkling and translucent jade-like little snake. The little snake stuck out its tongue and licked young Lu Feng's hand. Its pair of bright eyes were filled with gratefulness. Young Luo Feng picked up Long Luo and allowed her body to twine around her wrist before looking up at the man by her side with a faint smile. Yun Xiao, let's go. Mistress. Seeing Yun Luo Feng about to leave, Little Bug hastily ran over, seemingly afraid he would be abandoned. A short while later, their silhouettes disappeared within the forest, with only a few corpses on the ground as evidence that they there. Cheng family. Within the luxurious and exquisite estate, a dignified and beautiful woman was currently seated upright. She wore a pale yellow long robe and appeared elegant. What's wrong? You haven't recaptured that dragon? The woman frowned and her tone was clearly of extreme impatience. Eldest young miss, I've already dispatched men to chase Long Luo. It is heavily injured and can't escape far, a bodyguard that stood on one side respectfully answered. A bunch of worthless fools that can't even watch over a single dragon. Cheng Jioya slammed the table and stood up. Revealing a furious expression, her eyes faintly contained a violent storm. You had better recapture Long Luo within 3 days. Within the entire hall, everyone was silent without speaking. Only after a long time did a weak voice speak up. Eldest young miss, our actions don't seem to be right. Not to mention that Long Luo is from the ancestor dragon tribe, it also saved your life previously. We've already obtained enough essence blood, so why don't we let it go so that we don't commit too much evil? That senior elder lightly sighed and wanted to persuade Cheng Jioya. Yet, what he received was her bone-chilling gaze. To stand at the peak of the continent, we have to abandon all friendships. Even if it had saved me before, but so what? It can only blame itself for being too naive. Furthermore, the ancestor dragon tribe wasn't aware that we captured Long Luo anyways. However, if we release it, it'll incur wrath and retaliation from them, am I right? Those people who wanted to continue persuading Cheng Jioya had turned taciturn after hearing her words. Indeed, if they allowed Long Luo to escape, what awaited them would probably be the ancestor dragon tribe's revenge. Chapter 2075, Frame Up 2. Father always had a preference for that son of his, Cheng Wuyan. Even after he went missing, he only thinks about finding him, without a care for me, his daughter, in the slightest. Cheng Jioya's expression was ice cold as her eyes radiated a bone-chilling glint. Since I'm not lacking compared to Cheng Wuyan, why can't I inherit the Cheng family? Just because I'm a daughter? Everyone kept silent without talking. Compared to Cheng Wuyan's gentle demeanor, Cheng Jioya was clearly more heartless and ruthless. There was nothing she wouldn't do to achieve her objectives. Miss. Just then, a guard walked in with haste and spoke while panting, those experts we dispatched to chase down Long Luo are all dead. What? Cheng Jioya stood up in shock as her expression was extremely unsightly. Dead? I don't believe Long Luo has the capability right now. Miss, your subordinate is speaking the truth. I personally saw their corpses and they were all killed with a single blow. Under Cheng Jioya's murderous gaze, that guard subconsciously wiped off his cold sweat. He was also surprised that the Cheng family's experts had met their end. Who was the one who had the strength to do so? Could it be it's those few aristocrat families that are thinking of snatching this ancestor dragon from us? Cheng Jioya furrowed her brows as a cold glint streaked across her eyes. Miss, we picked up a jade pendant at the site, please have a look. After speaking, that guard slowly walked up and passed the jade pendant to Cheng Jioya. Upon noticing Qin engraved on the jade pendant, she gnashed her teeth with hatred. This Qin family is extremely daring for snatching away my prey. The Qin family. Cheng Jioya was filled with hatred, and if the Qin family was before her, she would have immediately killed them on the spot. Why did the Qin family snatch away Long Luo? The senior elder was silent for a moment and said, could it be that Long Luo doesn't have an ordinary position in the tribe? I heard that the eldest young miss of the tribe went missing a while back. Impossible. Although Long Luo belongs to the ancestor dragon tribe, she doesn't have a powerful status. Understanding the elder's thoughts, Cheng Jioya gave a mocking smile. Otherwise, do you think I'd dare to touch Long Luo? No matter how powerful the tribe is, they still have to consider the strength of us humans. Therefore, they would at the very most find trouble for us and wouldn't go all out for Long Luo. Of course, if Long Luo was the eldest young miss of the dragon ancestor tribe, it probably wouldn't end simply like that. Furthermore, she wouldn't have committed such a foolish act of provoking that person. Miss, this, How did you know about it? Facing the elder's questioning, Cheng Jioya smiled with indifference. I previously asked Long Luo, and an innocent dragon like her wouldn't know how to lie and deceive. She said she's only a normal dragon in the tribe and isn't the eldest young miss who went missing. Hearing her explanation, Lao Huan released a sigh of relief. Such a pure and ignorant dragon wouldn't be associated with the word lies. Therefore, her words had a high degree of credibility. Since so, then we can rest assured. Miss, should we set off to Qin City right now? In any case, we cannot give the ancestor dragon to them just like that.